everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Anthony and this is FPV Builds. So tonight we're going to be doing the assembly on the MB339. So I've already gotten everything laid out, kind of where I all want it to be. And so far I have mounted the control surfaces. There you go. So I'm going to bring you along as we put an FPV setup on it, get it all assembled, and get it ready for its maiden flight. Stay tuned. All right, so a couple of things that I've figured is I don't want to, the wing has to get glued on this, doesn't get screwed on. And because of where the ESC location is, I don't want to fully glue this wing on because then it'll be a nightmare to cut it off to replace the ESC, right? You also have to add a little bit of glue to the ESC to get that to stay where it needs to be and not float around and bounce off these control rods and stuff inside there, right? So what I'm thinking is, instead of gluing the wing on, I'm going to put a couple of magnets, high strength Neo whatever magnets. I'm going to put a couple here. I'll put one in the center, one or two in the center, and one or two on each side, and then on the wings as well. And then I'll be able to take the wing on and off as I please. Second issue I found or came to is the tank tips. The way this, oh, sorry, let me move that. All right, so it's the tank tips. So the way the tank tips are, right, they have these notches cut into them, okay? So when these are mounted, and this is the only design flaw I've really found so far with this plane, but when these are mounted on here like this, you can't move the aileron. It doesn't move. So with the tank tips on, it's basically unflyable, right? So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little glue and maybe carbon rods and push the tank tip off a little bit, and then I'll notch this out. I'll cut this out a little bit here, and that should give me enough separation that I can operate the aileron without having to cut off the aileron, which is something I really don't want to do. You never want to shorten a control surface, right? So other thing I'm going to do is I could do the E6000 trick here and strengthen up these hinges. As you can see, there's already a little bit of cracking in the foam hinge right there, right? So either I can use foam reinforcement tape, which is what I might do, or I can use the E6000 trick and do a little glue in the hinges. All right, so that's where we're at right now. I also have to peel off the canopy. And I'll show you really quickly how I do that. Okay, so when I do these, right, what I do is I have these little pick tools that I use, okay, and I get it in between there. I don't want to damage the canopy, right? So I will stick it in there nicely, and then I just slowly drag it across. Right? I slowly drag it across, and that frees up the glue from the canopy. You don't want to dig into the foam or anything. There we go. And you get it to separate a little bit, and then you can start working it as you go along further. Okay. There we go. And you just want to start separating the glue. And you slowly just drag it along there until you completely work it off. And you don't want to damage the, there we go, the clear plastic part or the foam canopy itself. So you kind of want to take your time and separate it. And there we go. All right, so that's it. That's how you separate that, right? So then, when you're done, I would clean this glue off as best as you can. A little alcohol should take it off. Don't put alcohol on the inside of this; it might make it cloudy. Wipe off any fingerprints you have. I'm going to cut a couple of vent holes here, not large ones, just small ones, so it has good airflow from the front and exiting out the back, and that will be so the VTX can get some air. And that's basically it. I also have a small gauge sheet that I could put on there if I really wanted to, and have faux gauges that the camera can see through. But I don't know. I don't really care about that, honestly. But there you go. Once that's glued back on, you'll never know it was come off. It came off, and the FPV setup will look like it was actually came with the plane. So, all right. I will show you how I do the foam, the magnet setup for the wing. I'll show you the mod I do for the tank tip. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so I completed the mod for the magnets. I'll show you what I got going on here. So I put 2 at the back, piece of magnetic steel in the front, 2 on the back on the wing, and then a nice healthy size magnet in the front, and it holds the wings down actually pretty strong. I'll show you what we got. Okay, trying to do this one-handed. Hold on a second. Let's do that. Okay. And there you go. Can't see the magnets. It's a nice solution, and it's on there. I mean, you really gotta kind of pry it to get it off of there. So there you go. So if I want to, I could put a little piece of tape across here to definitely make sure that the back's on, and if I need to peel the tape off, that's fine. But with the magnets on, the wing's not going anywhere. I can shake it. It's not going anywhere. So it's got a nice bond, and the front's definitely held on really well. So there you go. So now it's a removable wing. And then this is the solution I came up with for the ends. So I notched it out, and let me see, it fits on like that. And then there's a nice little space right there. So now the aileron will work. So those are the modifications I made. See? Look at that. It'll move back and forth. It's no longer blocked by it. And from the side, you can't tell. So, all good to go there. I can glue this on there. I actually threw a carbon rod in here as well, because I chopped this in half and took some material out of this. So I actually threw a little carbon rod in there to strengthen this, so it's nice and strong. That's it. So the mods are pretty much done. Now I just gotta put a receiver in it, set up the control surfaces, put a little hinge tape on the control surfaces for reinforcement, maybe Mod Podge it. This really is a nice little plane. So, all right, everybody, moving onwards and upwards. It's coming along nicely, though. All right, so the wing is completed and done. I put the magnets in place. The tips and the tank tips are on with the tank tip mod, and the ailerons work. No problem. That's the little mod I did there. Can't see it from the front, so that's good. I have the rudder on and the elevator is on. So the last step I have to do is add the FPV setup to the canopy. From there, I will be done, and I have to put the receiver in as well. Also, this XT60 lead that they have here is a little short. Doesn't really give you a lot of room. And especially if that's where the receiver is going to go next to it, that's a little tight as well. So there's definitely some mods that need to be done for this plane. All right. Overall, nice plane. Just you got to go into it with some mods in mind. All right. We'll follow up once we have the FPV set up in the canopy. Okay, so the MB339 is actually coming along pretty good. I did the wing mod for the magnets. Also, I noticed that the elevators weren't deflecting all the way. It's because they were hitting the fuselage, so I trimmed the elevator a little bit. I didn't want to, but now I get full deflection out of it before it was hitting the fuselage, so that's good. And the FPV setup is done, tested, and I glued the canopy back on. I also cut little vent holes, if you can see. Cut one at the top, cut two on the sides, and then there's two in the front. So I cut little vent holes so there's air going in and out of the canopy, and that will cool down the VTX. The VTX is a tramp. I use the Cadix camera, and that's basically it. So this plane is almost done and ready for its maiden flight. Everything's done. I glued down the ESC. Oh, also, I had to extend the XT60 lead. It was really short and ended about there. So I'm going to put the receiver right here. And now I have enough room with the XT60 lead. And then I did my servo attachment. This will plug into the canopy for the VTX and the FPV setup. So that's pretty much it. It is kind of tight in this cockpit, so the receiver is going to go right there. And these are the stands. I make these stands. I 3D print them, and then I make the tubing. I use carbon fiber or aluminum tubing. They work really great. I'm actually thinking about manufacturing these and starting to sell them. So if you'd be interested in these stands, let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in them. They work great for small planes like this working on the countertop. I have some of the bigger stands like the FMS one over there, and those are great for like the field and working on taller and bigger planes, but these are great for working on a tabletop to hold the plane. This one's painted blue because I used it to paint the Mustang. So they also work great for painting models as well. All right. So this one's pretty much wrapped up. Just got to throw a receiver in it and it's done. Get ready for that maiden flight. So there you have it, everybody. The MB339 is completed and ready for its maiden flight. There is the FPV setup. Like I said, I cut a couple little holes into the canopy so the VTX doesn't overheat. I put faux gauges in there just so it'll have something cool to look at. The canopy glue actually dried and worked good. You didn't see anywhere where I used the canopy glue. That's the one great thing about using canopy glue. It's a great little plane, but there's definitely a couple of mods that you have to do to get this to where it needs to be. Like I said, I had to cut the elevator surface a little bit because when it was deflecting down, it was hitting the fuselage. You also want to make sure when you're gluing these in, they are perfectly aligned. So look through this way before you glue these in. Look through this way and make sure they're touching each other and perfectly aligned. You could also measure out from the wing tips. Okay. So then I also have the modification I did of the tip tanks. That came out nice. You can't tell looking at the plane front on, and if you do see it from the side, you just see a little bit of black. So that's it. Ready for the maiden flight. I'm going to be maidening this with the SR-71, the X-Fly Eagle, and one or two other planes at the same time. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following. And we'll be doing that giveaway on the B-25, Battle of the B-25 videos. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.